Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is the bonus day three, second session of the Igniting Champion Leaders Challenge. Oh, yes, the Edu Igniters Challenge. I am Jamal Maxim. I'm an igniter of champion leaders. I ignite teachers to step out of the classroom and to embrace their role as a champion of change and to ignite change, either as a school leader or an entrepreneur. We've had a great challenge. This challenge started last week where we talked about the DNA of an igniter and how you do not have to be a person in a particular position in order to ignite change and being an influencer in education. And then on day two, we talked about igniting the root. No matter the challenges that you are facing or the problem you are looking to solve, there are three roots that you need to make a part of your solution. And they are hope, passion, and joy. If you don't do that, your change will not be sustainable. And then we talked about keeping the fire, overcoming the challenges of change. And then we also talked about accelerants. What are some of the things you need, the skill sets that you need to accelerate, the change that you're doing, as well as to influence other people to join in the movement that you are creating and igniting change. Everybody talks about the education system being broken. There are people saying enough is enough. They're ready to quit. And on day one, I talked to you about how many teachers are ready to quit based upon the recent results from NEA, the National Education Association. And then I talked about how many superintendents are ready to quit, how many of them are dealing with stress-related illnesses because of the pressures that they're dealing with, how many principals are ready to quit. So if everybody is quitting, who is going to ignite change and what's going to happen to the education system? And so one of the things I recognize is this: a broken system will break people. And so we have to make sure we build and maximize this moment, take advantage of the moment, and build a healthy system. And what that might look like for you is within your district, assuming a leadership position or being a person of influence in whatever position you're serving. Or for others, it may mean stepping out of the classroom, stepping out of the school, stepping away from the district, and starting an education-based business. And so the earlier session today, I had a guest on, Deborah Osomo. It was an audio-only discussion because she's in another country. And we talked about what that looks like as an entrepreneur. So you definitely want to watch or listen to that replay so you can get those strategies. Now, today we are continuing this discussion, this roundtable discussion of how do you know when to quit? Right now, quitting is so popular. There's hashtag teacher quit, where people are taking selfies of turning in their resignation on TikTok. There's the hashtag watch me leave. And so there is a movement of quitting, and people are calling it and saying it's a part of the great resignation. And so in this movement of people quitting, I want you to be wise, and I want you to discern the season and the time that you are in, and recognize just because everybody's quitting, that might not be your path, or it might be your path to transition, but you want to make sure you do it the right way. And so that's why we're having this discussion. This would be actually like the third or fourth time we've had this discussion. But it's pertinent, it's important, and I want to help you. And so that's why we're doing it. And so on this roundtable, I have two special guests with me today. I have my wife, Valerie Maxim, who's here with us. She is a former educator. She taught math, taught ELA, but I'm gonna let her introduce herself. Her track record speaks for itself in terms of student growth, and she's just a spunky little something too. If you heard her speak yesterday. And then also my friend Saki Milton, the owner of the Gems Camp, who's had the honor of dealing with this experience, and we have the honor of getting to know each other, and we speak and on the live audio app and rooms together, and her work is phenomenal and also full of wisdom. And so I had these two ladies on here who have this experience but also know how to speak and share wisdom, not just what they think, their opinion, and and give you something that they just pull out of nowhere. They speak from their own hearts, from their experience, and they can give you the wisdom behind what they've experienced and how to really discern this season. And so with that, we're going to start it off. So just take a moment to unmute yourselves and introduce yourselves, and then we'll go from there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go first. So nice to be here, Jamal. Thank you for doing this. This is really fancy. I've never done this, so this is really nice. Everybody, I've been a middle school math teacher for 8.5 years, and I transitioned out in 2016. I've been working in the nonprofit space simultaneously alongside teaching, and now do that full time in addition to being a doctoral student, getting a PhD in education, really looking at STEM and some of the research around what I've been doing as a teacher, which is really focusing on Black and brown girls and their interest in STEM subjects in terms of what keeps them away. Looking for solutions to combat that, especially in informal spaces, which are outside of the school day. So happy to be here.
All right. Thank you so much, Saki. Val, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people who don't know you.
Oh, okay. I'm already unmuted. Yep. Hi, everybody. I'm Valerie. I'm a former educator of 17 years. I've worked in predominantly urban environments, pre-K. Well, I was certified pre-K up to high school. Many of you heard me say last night I held many positions, and so this is my first year out of the field of teaching. Did you want me to say anything else, Jamal?
That was kind of short and sweet, but okay.
Yeah, because I was on here last night.
Right. I thought you was going to say a little more. And so for everyone who's watching live on the various platforms, feel free to comment, like, and share this video to anyone that you know who can benefit from discussion will get this information. Also, if you're listening on the live audio app, feel free to share it out in the hallway as well, and allow people just to know, ping people to the room so that they can hear this discussion. For those of you on the live audio, you may see Saki's profile picture, but my wife is not on that app. So you're just going to hear her, but not see her. And feel free on every platform that we are streaming, commenting and the chat features are on. So if you have questions in real time, we will answer them right now. This is a organic discussion that we are having just to really share insight and wisdom. And so let's start off. Saki, share a little bit of your journey of how you came to transition out of the education space that you were in, what you felt and what led to that transition.
Yeah, so it's funny because I came into teaching by way of the corporate side of education, and when I became a teacher, I've actually tried to quit a couple times, but none of those times were the right season, and that's why I'm glad you're having this conversation, because the first two times I ended right back in the classroom. Like things didn't work out the way I had planned, and it just wasn't the time. You really have to use your wisdom and make sure your resources are in alignment. So I say that to say on that third time, which was 2016, I really had a sense of peace. I can't really describe it, but it was a sense of peace and overwhelming knowing that this was the right time. I needed to do this, and I had complete assurance that everything was going to work out this time. Everything was going to work out this time. And there were a couple of, I wasn't in a bad place in school. I pretty much could, I was pretty good at what I did, and so I had a lot more freedom, I think, than some teachers face, but it wasn't all easy. It wasn't a rosy, walk in the parks. There were a lot of things that, I didn't agree with or that had rubbed me the wrong way, et cetera, et cetera. And I had some challenging students along the way and worked in some, very challenging environments along the way. But I think because I knew it was my time to
Mm.
leave, I was able to leave with, and I've said this to you before, without bitterness in my heart, without being angry at anyone, not this attitude of these kids can't do this. And, a lot of the language that I hear, I really left with a sense of accomplishment. Sorry. A sense of accomplishment and a sense of pride and a sense of honor that I got to be a teacher. Like I look at that and say, I got to be a teacher for 8.5 years. And that is
Mm.
really a privilege to be able to say, I made a difference to somebody for 8.5 years, and that really mattered. So I wouldn't let when I left, I felt like no one could take that away from me. So I think because I left in that way, I felt like I feel like I'm more of an advocate for teachers versus, oh, girl, you just need to get out. That type of attitude.
Yeah, that's awesome. And a couple of things that stuck out that you said, you talked about the sense of peace that you felt and the sense of accomplishment, and you made sure that your heart was right, that you didn't leave from an angry or bitter place.
Mhm.
Because, we said this yesterday when Val and I were talking, the seeds you sow when you leave are sown into that culture or that environment that you're leaving, that people are going to have to deal with when you're gone, but you're also going to have to deal with the ramifications of those seeds when you step into your next endeavor. And so, I really like that you pointed that out, and you talked about the peace and the heart. And it was funny, you said you tried to leave 3 times. That so much mirrors Val, because she's going to share briefly her story again, but she talked for 3 years about leaving. And so much so that when we were at our church one Sunday, this couple came, and we believe in prophecy and things like that. They came and prayed for me and my wife, and they were initially talking about us transitioning out of education. And I was sitting here like, nah, that ain't for me, that's for her. But it turned out I ended up transitioning out before she did. And I was like, wait, well, something got flipped and something was backwards. Something was wrong here. Because I was extremely I felt I had some challenges, but I was extremely happy doing what I was doing. And I wasn't ready to go. And so Val, I want you to share yours, and then I'll share a little bit of mine.
Um, my journey of leaving.
Yes.
I'm with you. I am tracking for real.
I'm messing
Yeah.
with you. I know you are.
Yeah, I tried to leave for 3 years, but um, I knew for me that my time was short in education. Short, as far as when I got ready to go, I knew that my time was winding up. And the reason that I knew this is because um, things impacted me differently in that season of my life than they did before. So how you said and how Saki said that you guys had good experiences and you weren't bitter, neither was I. But when it was time for me to go, the closer it got, the more I was not able to just easily and quickly what I want to say, because I'm not stressed, but shrug off things like I normally would just immediately because I that grace was there. So especially being a new teacher, you're gung ho, you like woohoo, we could do this. Whatever a principal says, you're on it. You up there for 16 hours a day, grading papers, taking papers home, and But the closer I got to leaving, I saw that my habits started changing. I refused to take any papers home. I didn't care what got graded, and if it did, it didn't. It's like whatever wasn't done when I left, it wasn't done. I, of course, stopped spending so many hours in the building, which I did in previous years. So I could just tell that things were changing for me. And I knew when I left, just like Saki, I had peace. I didn't have any doubt. I was settled and I was ready to go. So that's a little bit of that. Jamal, it's hard for me to know what to say because I said it all last night. So I didn't know what you want me to repeat or whatever,
Well,
you know.
well, you can repeat whatever you want to say.
Okay.
This isn't really, this isn't really a scripted conversation per se. I just wanted you to share.
Okay.
And but one thing I want to point out to everybody watching live or watching a replay, listening live or listening to the replay, that common thread of having that sense of peace, knowing when it was time to go, and knowing both of you had those attempts at leaving, but it didn't work out. So tell me how you reconciled um, those attempts. Like, both of you was like, I'm out. And then it was like, nope, didn't work out. I'm out. Nope, not maybe, no, maybe not. And so how did you reconcile those attempts and really, you said you had the sense of peace the last time, but how did you reconcile between the attempts and being there and then the second attempt and it not working? So you had a couple of times where it wasn't the right time. So how did you reconcile that and come to that understanding? And so yeah, whichever one of you want to go
Yeah.
first, that's
That
fine.
Well,
was Saki.
yeah, well, certainly what Valerie was just saying about how you were describing some of your habits. Um, you didn't feel like grading, it get done when that was me those first two times. Like I was so checked out mentally.
Yeah.
I had uh I was so checked out mentally that I just didn't quite I wasn't let me say I felt like I felt convicted that I wasn't being honorable. Um,
Mm,
and I felt like, and not to make this over spiritualized, but I felt convicted by God that this is not way I would have you to leave. I need you to protect your witness and your name. And I didn't realize that at the time. Quite honestly, I was just trying to get out and do my own thing. I was so eager to move on to what was next that I really wasn't looking and paying attention to the way I was leaving things. And the way I
mm,
would have left both of those jobs would have been chaos and would have been disorder for the next person who had to come in and assume that role. So that third time when I finally left, I took the time to get my units written up, to get the reflections written up, to give a little bit of summary on every student, where they were, whoever gets them next year. This is how this student. These are things to like. I felt much better. Like I'm leaving behind a legacy almost, and that became more important to me than the next step itself. That first
mm,
time I wasn't thinking that way. I was just trying to get out and do my own thing because I had had enough of teaching and school environments. And the second time I was like, I already know whatever next is going to be amazing. So let me leave this in a nice way so that whoever steps in can pick it up and go about the work of whatever. Because I worked in an international baccalaureate school and we had just gotten our 3-year evaluation, and those things are very intensive. And so we put a lot of work into that for that entire school year, and I didn't want to leave all of that work that we had put in and that I had put in to really build that mathematics department at the middle school to just kind of throw it away. And I remember when I did move on, the teacher who fulfill my position actually wrote me like an email maybe about 3 or 4 months into the job and saying thank you for leaving such good records and everything. And I was like, yeah, that I'm so glad that I took the time to do that and that I was convicted about that.
wow, I love that. So the prevalent theme in that share was the fact that you said leaving a legacy, and that when you were looking at leaving the wrong way, it didn't work out. But when you had that heart posture and you focused on legacy versus trying to escape, then that's when it seemed like things lined up. That's
Yeah.
really awesome. Go ahead, Val.
Yeah.
What
I
about
was gonna
what
say
about for you?
so much of what Saki is saying is so much of what we said last night. And even though she wasn't a part of the conversation, I'm telling you, like right on. So we talked about successor, that everybody has a successor, even if you're not in leadership. And we
Yeah.
talked about, Saki, what you just said. You are leaving that classroom for the next person. And that's what I said about when I left. I made sure that everything was together for the person to come in and just they could be ready to start, and so I just think that is so important that we have to see it like that, that somebody is going to come pick up your pieces. You were shattered
Mm-hmm.
and broken, and you might leave some of your shatteredness there, but
Yeah.
somebody is coming to pick that up behind you. And
Mm,
so you have to think about how you want to be received in your new endeavor or your new job or your new adventures or whatever you're doing, if you want that transition to be easy or hard. And so just think about the next person before you make a decision out of emotion, because we talked about emotion last night, because sometimes emotions are deceptive anyway,
mhm,
Yes.
because depending on what triggered it and what happened, if you just give yourself a few days or a few hours to calm down, you'll see things differently anyway, because
yeah.
everybody can't leave. And so I
Mm,
just want to reiterate that again, that yes, it is time for some people to leave, but everybody can't leave. Somebody has to stay. So those 8 years that Saki was a teacher, it was meant for her to be in those positions for those 8 years.
Yes.
The 16, 17 years I was in education, it was meant for me to be there for those 16, 17 years. And
mm,
so everybody can't leave right now. We got to stay. And
mm,
so
Yeah.
I don't know how to, because I know it's difficult when you're in the middle of it. Um, like when you have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you have to encourage yourself and you have to go in there and be motivated every day. And like you said, Saki, I worked in urban environments, so you already know how my children were cut. Disrespectful, non-compliant. They gonna do what they wanted to do when they wanted to do it. But I was considered the cool, mean teacher, if you will. Which is fine. One day, a student was like, "Miss Maxwell, people say you mean." I was like, "And I mean, I guess she thought that was going to affect me negatively. Good, so don't even try it,
mm,
whatever." But I was that teacher, and so I had a relationship with my students where I could talk to them as if they were my child,
mhm,
and I did talk to them like that, and parents appreciated it.
mm,
So I understand though for teachers who are not like that, because you have some teachers who are on my team. We had every style of mannerism that you could think of, the docile, laid back, the aggressive, the passive. I mean, we had it all. And so for teachers who are not that way, who can't like just, you know, stand up against these students, or I know parents and sometimes your administrator, they tend to be unhappy and they tend to be frustrated and
mhm,
they tend to find it difficult to go in there and do their best work. And so I was going to say I don't know how to encourage them, but in fact I do know how to encourage them. But because I'm saying in the moment I know it's going to seem difficult, but they need to surround themselves with somebody who can help them through those moments. And we
Mm-hmm.
talked about that last night.
Yes. And one of the things I want to say that you guys are, and I believe this is why it's important for us to have this conversation and for this prevalent theme to be occurring every time, that, and it's not scripted or not planned. It is God inspired. And I'm just be clear with that. Because one of the things that I talked about last week that it wasn't even a part I had planned to be a part of the presentation was about when I was talking about igniting passion. I really felt the sense that people needed to watch who they were around, because the circle you keep, they will either ignite your passion or drain it. No matter, because everybody's facing challenges the same way. We're not the same way. We're all facing the same challenges as educators. But how you approach those challenges makes the difference between if you're going to exercise victory over them or if you're going to be overcome by them. And if you are passionate and you're solution oriented and you're ready to just do what you're supposed to do to find a solution, and looking at preserving your heart and leaving the right way, you can't be around folks who are just complaining, ready to escape, gossiping about the principal, the admin, the other teachers, probably you when you ain't around, and complaining about everything. because those poisonous actions and words will get in you. And
Yes.
then next thing you know, you're saying it, you're thinking it, and now you're feeling it. And so now you want to escape and you're documenting yourself saying, I can't take no more. This is too much. I'm ready to go. Filming yourself handing a resignation like everybody else on TikTok. And so you have to be clear on what you have to, one, preserve your, everybody's talking about mental health. You have to preserve your mental and emotional health. And sometimes it's the folks you are around. And you need to get around the right people who can give you wise counsel so that you can make the right decision. Because you're talking about a career move that you've gone to school to get this degree, whether you started out as an educator or started in business like, Saki and myself, and then you transitioned over, but still went to school. You put the hours in, put the work in, and now all of a sudden, because, things are quit, you properly shifting about. Sometimes that shift may mean I need to leave this classroom but do something different. It may also mean maybe I need to leave the district, or maybe I need to be an entrepreneur, or maybe I just need to chill and get a real vacation and not do summer school or after school tutoring. So you need to really discern the season and be wise, and don't let people who mean well but don't really understand you, your purpose, or your journey direct you in a way that you should not go. And so I really, really wanted to emphasize that because I just really feel some stuff on that, and it's very essential.
Let
And
me let
so,
me let
yeah,
me
go
speak
ahead,
to that
Saki.
really quickly. You're so right, because the first two times, like I told you, I tried to leave a couple times, and the first two times I was that person. I was
Mm,
toxic, I was broken, I was hurt, I was tired, I was sick and tired of it all. And my language, all of that, your language, your attitude, all of that can cloud your judgment. And it can hinder your exit, your future that you're trying to get to. And I'll quickly close with this. Do you know that because I left the last time that I left in such a way that was very much dignified. All of my clients out of the following years, when I was trying to build my business and build the organization, all of my private clients that I've had have come out of that one school because of the reputation that I was able to leave behind. No one could really say anything that would have been so damaging to make these parents not seek me out. They literally seek me out all of the time. That was what, 2016, and I still have people to this
mm,
day with younger children, because it was a K-12 school, saying, I heard that you used to work at this school and I heard good things. I would like to ask you about your services. So that right there, what you're saying is so important, because had I left the first time the way that I was carrying on, I don't think I would be able to say that right now.
mm. And I'm gonna tell you this too. When I left, you guys heard me say at the beginning, I wasn't ready because I loved what I was doing. I loved being the principal. It was so much fun. I'm telling you, and we had ended the previous school year with one of the funnest days I've ever had. We had this school-wide assembly, and there's like 950 kids all in the thing. And I was running around, sliding on the floor, doing selfies with the kids. I mean, we had all these different performances. I mean, it was just so much fun. I loved it. And I would, of course, you deal with challenges, especially when you're leading and you're leading differently than what people anticipate. But I wasn't ready. And I recognized that when I got moved to the high school, and I really didn't want to go to the high school. But when you're a school leader, you get voluntold a lot. They can reassign you at any time, and without notice, they can just come tell you we're moving you. And so, and the nice and courteous ones will have a conversation with you and give you time to mentally adapt and adjust to your new assignment. Like my superintendent and assistant superintendent were awesome. And so they came and talked to me and said, hey, this is what we want to do. And for a minute, I was going through emotional withdrawals because I was so used to being at the K-6 school with the little ones, and now I'm in this high school with the kids who are taught older siblings, which gave me a little bit of credibility because this kid taller than me was like, hey, you used to be the principal at my sister's school, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah," you know, looking up at this tall kid. And but I remember that was preparation for me because it allowed me to process the emotions I felt of just missing the students, missing the action of being in the school, missing the teachers, and even missing the ones that were, you know, not so great, but I still end up missing them. And it actually prepared me for being a consultant because I wasn't doing what principals do. I was now a district level admin, and and basically I'm consulting. I'm consulting the principal to help him turn around his school, implementing stuff from the school improvement grant. So I'm in meetings about meetings or debriefing a meeting or prepping for a meeting. And I wasn't doing all the things that I really liked about being a school leader. And I would say for the first week or so, I really had to deal with all of those emotions. And then once I embraced it, I was able to see progress. But then, of course, we know, those of you who heard the story before know that came February, the House bill cut school funding and district level admin was cut, which was where I was. And my position was one of the positions cut. But I believe that time allowed me to get my heart right and really prepared me for consulting, which is what I do now, because that's basically what I did. And so what are some of the signs that people should look for when that they need to really check out and pay attention to when they're trying to discern what season they're in and if their season is up to transition, so they don't go ahead of time and be out there when they're not supposed to, or they don't overstay their welcome and do more damage to the school or the district that they're in than they're supposed to. So what are some of the signs that someone should look out for? Whoever wants to start first answering the question.
One thing I would say is when you get to the point where you're not as invested as you once were. So I know for myself, as the years went on, I became less and less invested. Now, I would never not honor my kids by not teaching them. That wasn't the thing. But I'm saying my heart was not in my job anymore. So I did what I needed to do. I did what was requested of me by the principal. I did what I needed to do to teach my students, but emotionally and mentally, I was like, I'm done. Long before I was done. So that's the thing that you can look out for. But this is the thing I wanted to address. I know that's your question, but I wanted to address something Saki said. The one thing about it, I never, and not because I dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. I'm not saying that. But the more you talk about feeling bad, the more you feel bad. Does that make sense? So what I did, though, even though I didn't talk about it, Saki, I talked to myself about it. Does that make sense? And I still felt bad. Even though I wasn't telling anybody else, I was talking to myself. I was self-rehearsing, like, man, I can't wait till I leave. Man, these kids, man, this drive or whatever. And so I really want to address that for your listeners, if they happen to be in that space, the first thing they need to do is control their words.
Yes.
Because it is going to have an impact. And even worse, and then they think that they're dealing with one thing, but by the time it's all said and done, they're going to be so wrecked emotionally from this experience that, I mean, they may be traumatized. I mean, just, some teachers have had some horrible experiences, so just that one thing. But yeah, so I would say if you're in that place where you are doing the self-talk that I did, or just talking out loud like Saki did, you probably need to check to see if you still need to be there. Yeah. Now, the funny thing is you have some teachers who want to stay, but they do that every day. You understand what I'm saying? Like, they don't want to leave, but they just gonna complain every doggone day. I'm like, why are you still here? Right. I had so many conversations with my teammates. Like, why are you still here? You are not happy. It's apparent, because If the principal says, um, make sure your computer's on at 7:45. Why I gotta be on at 7:45? I'm used to turn on my computer at 7:50. Why I gotta turn on 7:40? That's 5 minutes taken away from my time. See, I mean, or whatever, change the student work from last week to put up some fresh student work. Don't they know I got more to do than put up student work? I don't get paid to put up student work. I get paid to teach. My contract tells that I have to teach. It doesn't say anything about putting up student work. Won't he come up here and put up some student work? I mean, it's like, good Lord, you need to quit. But then they say, but I don't have nothing else to do. Yep. I don't know what. Well, then get yourself together. If you're going to be in this boat, let's make it float. That's what we were talking about last night. If we all in the boat together, we try, like I used to tell my kids, we all gonna make it to the other side. Ain't no time to be jumping out the boat, drowning. I gotta save you, gotta stop, pull you in. That's prolonging everything we have to do. And it's the same thing with staff. If we're in the boat, we're in the boat together, but that was what I was saying.
Man, that was
good. That's what's up.
Oh my God! As you were talking, I had a couple of people coming to mind.
Yep.
Like,
just unhappy.
Ever happy? Like maybe they're just not happy in their personal lives, and
right? And they don't want to, and you ain't leaving. What the heck?
Right.
And then you had to
you're taking any steps to get out of it.
Right. And the kids can't do this and the kids can't do that. But that's a reflection on you. Yeah. That's like me complaining to Saki, that's like me complaining to you about Jamal. How does that make me look? That is my husband. I'm telling you every negative thing about him. What does that say about me as a person? One, you're going to probably say, why is she still with him? Or she need to do something different. When teachers do that, when teachers complain about their kids, it's a bad reflection on them. Because if they can't do something, they're sitting in your classroom. So what does that say about your ability to teach them? So, and that's a whole nother, that was free.
You just listen, that's a whole nother.
Right, that's free. You complain, right, that was
complaining about the students in your classroom says more about your own instruction and effectiveness than it does about those children.
Exactly.
Their brains aren't fully developed. Your brain is.
Boom. Okay? That. You would never hear me complain about my students ever. I might have thought it now.
Right.
Where are you, boy? You need to go home, go back to bed. I might have thought that, like, why'd you even come today? You're not even engaged. You're not trying to learn. But I'm never going to sit out and talk about my students' abilities not being able to do something, because then that says to you that I'm not doing my job. Anyway,
wow,
that was free.
Wow, that's what's up. And I know that we've been on here about 38 minutes. This has been a great conversation, and I know we gotta go. So I'm gonna start with you, Saki. Any final just words of wisdom that because there's so much more we can say about what Val just said. I'm like, we need to do another
right. That doesn't even make sense.
Just to talk about self-talk and talk about those words
and narratives and language we're using about kids, like all of it.
Yes.
And it was so funny that last week, I don't know if you guys have heard of Dr. Bill Winston, but he's a business owner, has his own business school, also very well known as a pastor. And for this week, he was having a conference, and he kept talking about your words, and he kept just really emphasizing the power of our words and the power of what we say. And so people have to really understand what you say is what you end up contending with. Absolutely. Or what you say is what you will have. And so if you keep complaining about education, keep complaining about students or your district, you're going to keep having those things that you're complaining about, which is why it's so important to, once you assess the situation and you accept the challenge that situation presents, that you need to actively engage in bringing a solution. And so, yeah, I don't want to go there. But so, Saki, any final things you would want to share to the people watching, the people listening on the app? The chat on the Clubhouse app is blowing up, and so with what's going on, and I definitely appreciate everybody watching live, watching the replay, everyone listening live, listening to the replay. So Saki, think about these educators right now. And I know you have, but what words of wisdom would you share with them?
I would say, especially for those who are not in a good place, as Ms. Valerie was articulating, if you find yourself in that situation and you're that negative and that toxic, it's probably best that you remove yourself. Um, but I would say make sure you have a plan. When is the last time you looked at your resume? Is it updated? Have you been networking? Who do you know? Who can give you the references that you need? What are you even interested in? Do you want to get out of education altogether, or do you want to just get out of the schoolhouse and maybe move into central office? Or do you want to go work for a publisher? Do you just want to be a curriculum writer, and freelance that way? You really need to start thinking about, if you know that this is it, the school year is almost over, I'm going to go ahead and submit my resignation. If you are at that point, you will do yourself you will set yourself up nicely if you really come up with a strong plan of action to be able to transition yourself out. You need to look at your retirement. How is that going to transfer? Because the state will still have your money. Can you roll that over? Like, there's so many other decisions that are going to play into your exit that you really need to consider. And I would say, max, if you're looking at leaving at the end of this school year, you really need to think about how you're going to maximize your summertime. A lot of schools right now have already done their recruitment. They're already hiring. Like, the top teachers, they're already taken. What are you going to do? Are you going to look at overseas? Like, you really need to come up with a plan. But the last thing I would say is do exactly what Valerie and I were talking about. Make sure you're leaving with a solid legacy. Don't go out and have your name smeared because you left with a horrible attitude and you were constantly known as a complainer, and don't leave that way. But if you cannot take it anymore and you find that you are creating a toxic environment, or it's this kind of you versus kids or you versus the parents over and over again, then get yourself together. Like Ms. Valerie said, come up with a plan so that you can make your departure. And that's all I got for that.
Yeah, that's what's up. Val, what are some words of wisdom that you would share, some final thoughts to someone who's thinking about if they should transition, and if they decide to transition or decide to stay, whatever place they may be in? What would you speak to them right now?
I think that Saki gave some excellent advice, and I'm totally the opposite of what she said. I just think that if you have to be clear on if you're meant to go or if you're meant to stay. First, let's just get clear on that. Taking the emotion out of it, just reason, logic, sound decision making. Is it time for me to go, or is it time for me to stay? Or is it meant for me to stay? Once that is decided, then like everything Saki just said is what a person needs to do. Now, I don't do that necessarily, and I talked about that yesterday, because I will leave without a plan. I don't have one. I don't know where I'm going. I just know it's meant for me to go, and that truly is how it normally works for me. But I would advise them to listen to Saki on that, because Jamal's laughing because he knows it's the truth. I don't have all the, see, for me, I don't have to have every step. I just give me the general direction. If I know the general direction, I know that clarity is going to come as I move in that direction. But that's me. So, but I like what Saki said. That was so like she's talking about your resume and all of that. Child, listen, I ain't think about none of that. So yeah, just the first thing I can honestly say, make the decision, know where you are, and then from there, move in that direction. Start preparing to move in that direction.
That's good. And the only thing I would add, as some final thoughts, I would just say, just be clear on the decision, because both of what you said is so powerful and so impactful. And I believe it's needed because we deal with two different personality types. So the person that's a planner, they need to start planning. And the person that doesn't need an entire plan, that they get the piece of it, and they jump, they need to know they can do that. And I know for me, and I'm gonna just tell you, for me, I was like in between. I had a plan, but then life happened and caused me to have to jump before my plan. And so you have to be flexible, you have to be able to adapt, and you have to be clear on where you are in life, be clear on your purpose. Because the thing that kept me from feeling angry or disappointed or sad when my position was cut was the fact that I recognized what my purpose is, and I was able to analyze and discern what was going on in my life at that moment in light of my purpose and destiny. And I knew that even though those situations were not occurring the way I would have liked, because I would have liked to have built my business while still being a principal, then had this smooth transition out and all of that. Life didn't happen that way, because when that House bill passed, no district in the state was hiring. And so I had to make a decision. And I remember it was March. It was actually 2 days from now will be 2 years from the day I made the decision. We were sitting in LA, and I had to make the decision on, am I going to launch a business or try to go work somewhere? And I remember sitting and thinking, the same effort and energy is going to take for me to call people, to get them to look at my application that was submitted electronically, get them to get me for an interview, is the same energy, effort, and faith that it would take to package my skill set and call, but from the position of working with them and not for them. And so I remember sitting in LA, we were at a business conference, because I just had the sense in October, before all of that went down, that I needed to really, really focus on building my business. And so by that time, I had found a coach, and we were at this seminar. And I remember sitting there, and I remember, by the favor of God, I'm just be real with you, I was able to go have a personal conversation with this lady who's hosting hundreds of people in a seminar, who's the owner of a multi-million dollar business. And I'm able to just walk up to her, and she basically said, how do you know the responsible thing to do right now in this season is to launch your business, so you never have to deal with this again? After that, and then after me just really feeling a sense of me needing to trust in God, I made the decision. And so I say that to say, those decisions and that clarity that came from the coach, when I knew she wasn't just trying to get me to get into her program, I could tell the genuineness in her voice. All of that came because I took the time to back away from the situation, process my emotions, and make sure that I was in alignment with my purpose. And so that's all I would say. Make sure that you're in alignment with your purpose. Make sure that you I'm laughing at my wife sending me messages. And so make sure that you're in alignment so that you can make this decision. And so with that, I just want to give you guys know that you've been a part of this challenge. You know that you have the opportunity to be a challenge champion if you took action every day of the challenge. And at the end of the challenge, which is right now, we're ending it. If you show me evidence that you took action every day by listening and watching the replays, doing the action steps, taking good notes and takeaways from these bonus sessions, that you have the opportunity to get a 40-minute strategy session with me, where we can dig deeper into the Ignition playbook that we created and help you really discern what you should be doing in this season. And I will help you get strategy and create strategy to make it happen. And I'll tell you, one of the gifts that I have is strategy. And so I want you to be able to move forward in such a way where you have clarity, where you have focus. And so real quick, I'm going to tell you, you guys know this consulting offer that's available. And I'm going to just tell you real quick what it is. It is this. Session 1, we're going to talk about a call to action, where you identify the one need that you are going to address and the pathway that is best for you, whether that pathway is entrepreneurship or if that pathway is It's staying in the position, but doing something to ignite change. Number two, we're going to talk about how you identify and ignite the root, meaning no matter what you decide to do to ignite change or how you're going to ignite the change, we're going to make sure that you are igniting joy, igniting hope, and igniting passion, because you have to ignite that within yourself as well as the other people that you are around in order to make lasting change. This is session 3, the fire strategy, how to overcome the challenges of making change, whether as an entrepreneur because you left or in whatever position that you are in, how to overcome those challenges, how to deal with complacency, loss of hope, and criticism, because changing things, changing yourself and changing things are not as easy as they sound. They're very glamorous in talk, but and very glorious in talk, but it takes a lot of work. It can get very gritty. And then session 4, the accelerant. This is where we talk about how to increase your influence and maximize it in order to draw people to you to take action on the changes that you're implementing. Remember, leadership is simply this: influencing people to take action. You don't need a title. You don't need a position. All you need to do is be an igniter. Then session 5 is the ignition playbook, where we make sure every strategy that we have created together, that there are no issues with implementation, that you're good with overcoming those challenges, and that you're walking it out. And so remember, this is not a course. And I say it again, this is not a course. I do have courses and all of the and curriculum and all of that stuff, but this is not it. This is personal one-on-one co-working sessions where we're going to work on the thing that you need to work on together. We're going to brainstorm. I'm going to help you develop strategy. I'm going to share wisdom and insight from my experience, from what I've learned, and what I will get in the moment working with you. This is not a course. And of course, any bonuses is you get to connect with me, unlimited access to me by direct message and email, and I'll respond to your question within 48 hours. And I say 48 hours because I don't just make stuff up. I don't just tell you what you want to hear, and I don't just give you a fluff answer. I take the time to think about an answer, think about your question in light of your situation, and give you the best possible answer and point you in the best possible way. All of that personal time with me is for an investment of only $4.95. And I say it's an investment, it's a seed. And with just like anything else, when you invest, you expect a return. And so know that $4.95 seed that you are giving or sowing into igniting change is going to give you the return of being the igniter and bringing the transformation and causing things to get better, not just for you, but for your coworkers and for the students, for $4.95. And someone might say, well, why would I invest in learning on how to make change in my school or district, or learning how to step out as an entrepreneur? Why would I invest in that? Why don't I just leave it alone? Well, I would tell you this: a broken system will break people. And instead of allowing this system to remain broken, I choose to believe that we can build a healthy system that nurtures teachers, nurtures administrators, nurtures students and their families. I choose to believe that's what can happen when we all ignite change and do it one school, one district at a time, and not wait on House bills or government mandates or federal programs. But it happens with us who know the students, who know the people, and we're right there in the middle of it. All right. So, and plus, if it's not your time to quit, why not make it better? Because it's going to be challenging either way. There are 2 challenges you can deal with. Number 1, the challenge of working in a broken system, or 2, the challenge of fixing and bringing health and healing to a broken system. Which challenge do you want? Because you're going to get one of them. There is no neutral place. Okay. So sign up. It's only $4.95. That's nothing. That's maybe less than a car payment for some people. It's nothing. Sign up. Go to jamalmaxim.org/ignite me, and we will get started. If you like all the content that you've heard during this challenge, you already know what it's going to be like when we consult and work one-on-one. Sign up right now and join me. All right. So That's it for the challenge. Remember, you have 14 days from today to submit the fact that you took action to be the challenge champion to get that bonus session. And when you sign up, so that'll be a fifth session on top of a sixth session on top of the 5 you already get. And then remember, you have 30 days to take advantage of the session so that we don't lose momentum and we keep things going. All right. So that's it for the challenge. It's been great. I thank you all for who are watching live and who are watching the replay, listening live, listening to the replay. I appreciate all of you, and we will see you again, and we will see all of you too. We will see all of you in the EDU consulting package when we get that time together. All right. So be successful, lead like a champion. Also, wait a minute, one more thing. The replays of this challenge will only be up for another 24 hours because they've been up all week. So make sure you're watching and listening very quickly. All right. Lead like a champion. Bye-bye.